Hi, it's Christy Lister with Beyond the First Response, and I'm here with Robyn Michael, my co-host, and Matt Thornton, a police officer that has some amazing stories that we're looking forward to hearing. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good, good, good. Great to see you guys. I
Good.
appreciate you letting me on. This is
Oh,
awesome.
thank you. I met you. Gosh, it's been about a year now, right? It was in August of
Uh,
2021 at
uh-huh.
I guess that's not quite a year, at a conference that you had come around the corner and introduced yourself to me. So
Yep.
amazing story. And that was just the brief that we got to talk. And then you also came to our family dinner that we host, our family weekend that we host for all of our police, fire, dispatch, EMS families that have lost someone to suicide. So it was great seeing you there as well.
Yeah,
Even though it was
that
brief.
was unbelievable.
It
Yes,
is,
that was
isn't it? Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah. And
Mm.
that's actually how I met Robyn. So
Oh, really?
yeah, funny
It's funny
world.
how we met. I was just going to stretch my legs and I'm looking around and I say, oh, I saw your organization. I know them. So
Yeah.
that's how we
That's
met.
so funny. Yeah. He of course said, I know Karen.
The
Doesn't.
superstar.
Right?
Yeah.
She is. She is. So Robyn is actually out in California and she's on the red side of First Help. Not that
Yes.
I'm
Oh, okay. Okay.
stealing your thunder there, Robyn, but if you
Oh,
want to
it's-
introduce yourself and then do the icebreaker.
Yeah, I'm Robyn Michael. So my husband took his life. He was a firefighter for 14 years with Alameda County Fire Department. Took his life on June 24th, 2019. And we have a now 13-year-old son. He was 10 at the time. And he's amazing. And we're just, trying to figure this life out. And this is something that Christy and I connected on and kind of realized that no matter what badge the family comes from, the stories are so similar. So we
Mhm.
decided we want to keep talking about it. This is kind of our continued therapy, I think. For me, at least it is. And having amazing guests like you on as well.
That's great. You have to talk about it. I mean,
Yeah,
there's what else you're gonna do? Grovel in your pain or use it
right.
to help other people? You have
And
to.
that's
Right.
exactly what I would do. So
I love you for it. That's awesome.
thank you.
So without further ado, our icebreaker question is
Yeah, kind of changing subjects here. I don't know how appropriate this is, but it's a very
Okay.
important topic. Toothpaste. Colgate, Crest, or Aqua Fresh?
Crest all day long.
Really?
Crest
Oh,
whitening, crest whitening,
whitening.
and crest whitening mouthwash.
okay.
I feel like
Am I
I'm a
going to catch judgment?
cheapskate. No, I feel like I'm a cheapskate because Aquafresh was always the cheapest one on the shelf.
That's true. I wonder
So-
why that is.
I don't know. I don't know.
What's the popular one? What's the most popular?
Good
I don't know.
question.
Probably Crest. I
Oh,
like Colgate Total, personally.
That's the one I use.
Yeah. I don't know. Are we going to get in trouble for like promoting?
We're not promoting.
No,
It's
no, we're
just
probably-
toothpaste.
Okay.
we'll get sponsorships.
Yeah,
Yeah, there we go.
that's right. Our shiny
Each of
teeth.
us uses
Yeah, look
one
at
of
our
them.
beautiful
so-
smiles.
Right, exactly. You're welcome. All those toothpaste companies.
Yeah.
I might not keep what comes out of our mouth clean, but our mouth is fresh.
Right.
Yes, yes.
That's important.
Exactly, exactly. So Matt, I know you've been a police officer in Illinois since 2004.
Uh-huh.
And I know that in the beginning, based on what you and I talked about before, when I first met you in the beginning, really it was life-changing the first couple weeks you were on the street, right?
Yeah,
Would you like to
definitely.
tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, I came from a different type of situation, I guess, than most cops. I never aspired to be an officer. I never researched what it was like. I had no clue what I was getting into. I actually didn't like police growing up, and I had a criminal record. wasn't huge or nothing, but I had been charged with a felony. Um, I didn't go to college. I never had military, so it was really something I never aspired or even if you looked into doing. So when I was 29 years old, I saw an ad in the paper, and I was just like, oh, that sounds like a cooler job than what I'm doing, which was working in a chemical plant. And I took it without knowing what I was getting into, and it really hit me right away. The mental, especially policing in a city that I grew up in, the mental stress of it was so extreme immediately, and Yeah, it almost started, my downward spiral started like day one, actually. It was pretty crazy.
Do you think
It's-
that it was more difficult? Okay, so you said you had grown up in the same city, that was a
uh-huh.
difficult part, but also kind of being on the other side of the fence. Do you think that that gave you a better connection with the people, with the community that you were policing, or did it make it harder?
It was, at first it made it harder.
Yeah.
I lost, like, I grew up around, who really raised me was gang members, a lot of my family. And I never really lost that love because they always protected me as a kid. So I never looked at them as being on the other side per se.
Yeah.
So when I got the job, a lot of them turned their back on me. They didn't want nothing to do with me. But then at the same time, a lot of the officers from where I was hired, they knew about some things in my history and they didn't want me either. So it was like, do I have any friends left? So
Yeah.
I was, a lot of the officers didn't even want me there. And that hurt me to my soul because I like, man, this is my city. This is the city I grew up in. None of you officers are even from here. And so I really took it hard from day one. So the stresses, they almost turned on like a light switch right off the bat.
Do you think it's because the gang relations? So they were afraid that it was going to come in, and the gang was afraid that you were going to invade and into
Yeah.
their
Oh yeah.
side.
Oh yeah. They definitely. I got. When I first started, I got my personal car got vandalized. I got death threats. I got family that called me directly on the phone and said, "If you do this, it's a wrap. That you're in big trouble." So it was. They thought I was
Wow.
coming after them. Yeah, it was. And the funny side, this is how God works. The funny part is that they're like my biggest fans now. They absolutely love it. That's how everything has come full circle in this time. So, but it wasn't pretty off the bat.
No, I can imagine. And so then what made you decide to be a police officer coming from that background?
My two of my buddies became cops, and we all kind of they went the college route. One of them went to the military, the other one went the college route. So they had set up themselves. They always wanted to be cops. So we would hang out and still, and I would just ask them all kind of questions, and they were like, "Well, such and such PD is hiring, so all you need is your high school diploma, and so just go ahead and try." So I tried for two different departments. One I failed the background checks. Did really well on the test, but I failed the background checks because they basically found out who my associates and family were, so they dropped me. But then the city I grew up in, I actually didn't learn this till later that I had a few people that vouched for me that I never knew about till a couple of years later. So
That's a
then I
blessing in
was just like,
disguise.
yeah, I really basically took it for the money. It was double my salary, so I'm like, it'll be a fun job and it's double my pay. So
Yeah.
That's amazing that you've been able to do that. And that part I actually had no idea. I did not know that was your background. Now,
yeah,
when you were had that felony, was
uh-huh.
it as a minor, so they were able to overcome that?
No, I was 21. I got caught with I had a concealed pistol that I got caught with, a loaded gun. And I was, by the grace of God, I got a really good attorney, and he dropped it down from the felony. They were going to charge the felony and it was going to be in my record forever. But at the last minute, I really don't know the circumstances. I just credit it to God. They said, okay, we'll charge you with the highest class misdemeanor. It's still on my record. It still hinders me everywhere I go, but it's not the felony. So luckily, and that's why I just credit it all to this is where God wanted me because it's unlikely because that charge sticks as a felony 9 times out of 10. So
I was going to say, it's like in everything that's happened in my life too, especially since my husband Eric died, universe puts people in our path that need to be there for whatever reason at that time. And it's like the more that you can just let that go and accept it, I feel like the easier your time is going to be. And for you, I mean, coming through that, the resilience that you must have to be able to overcome all of that, just to get into the police department, and then knowing that there were people that vouched for you because they saw something in you, and they also understood the benefit of somebody coming from this community, having had these ties, these gang ties. This could actually be something to help us maybe, get in there and turn some of these kids around if necessary.
Yep, it's been now looking back, it's been a huge help.
Yeah.
it was very hard for me to accept the people in blue next to me, like having this resentment towards the people that always protected and cared for me. It was just this weird world that I understand. Do your job. If they're breaking the law, do your job. And I've arrested tons of people that I grew up with, and I did my job correctly. But you don't have to have that hatred. They're not the enemy. Just
Yeah.
arrest
But only
arrest
you
them.
would understand that. Because coming from the outside, I mean, even me, I grew up in a
Yeah.
town that was a little bit on the rougher side. I was hanging around
Uh-huh.
with numbers too. But unless you like see that other side of people and you just see people's exterior, you wouldn't know that. So that's what you could bring to the job, right?
Yeah, and it's helped. It's helped quite a bit. It's
Yeah.
actually spread. Our PD, the dynamics and the mentality of our PD has changed so much since I've been there 18 years. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
That is very cool. And I think about it because if we only could understand both sides, I always say people have three sides, right? The side they show their family and friends, the side they show people at work, and the side which is actually them, the core of who they really are. And it's okay to understand everybody as long as you're not crossing those boundaries of illegal or
Of course,
whatever
of
that
course.
looks like. That's such a gift to have in so many ways, I think, because so few people can think outside the box like that or understand. A lot of people are out there are just trying to survive. They don't know any better. This is all they grew up knowing. Things like that doesn't make them who they are. It just makes from where they came from.
Yep, exactly. And it's an unknown. And normally it's natural for humans to like not want to go anywhere near the unknown and just stay what they know. So
yes,
Right.
and it's so funny that you say that because I'm like, the world would be so different if people just was able to go somewhere they did not know. The fear of the unknown keeps us from expanding ourselves in general. And
Yep.
I just, yeah. So with that, what do you think? Obviously, you struggled from the very beginning. What did the department and you? I guess I'd like you to tell your story because I know that you struggled. You went, beyond some things, and then we have a book to talk about that you've written. So I don't know where you really want to start with that because it's all so much and it all comes together the same way, and I don't want to overstep one way or the other.
Oh no, I could tell. Yeah, right off the bat, I remember my rookie season. I was calling my rookie season like I'm in the NBA or something.
Yeah.
My rookie season.
Like
So
that.
I remember going because we had a serial killer in our city, and he got two. They were either 8 or 9-year-old girls, and we found them. It was me and my partners who found them. And I remember it being the most terrible thing I've ever laid my eyes on in my life. It still stays with me to this day. They were slashed up and brutally killed. And I remember being on the scene, and the most unhealthy thing that I ever heard as an officer was a veteran officer who all these guys looked up to. Everyone tried to be like him, and he's there, and he was just so cavalier and nonchalant about it. He's, oh, this is nothing. I'll go home and sleep like a baby. We see this stuff. This doesn't bother me at all. And here I am guarding the bodies, because you have to guard the bodies in these scenes. And I'm just I'm just praying to God that I don't cry in front of everybody, because I was distraught. I still haven't gotten over it. And so, but I see this veteran officer, and he says this, and I'm like, I guess that's how I gotta be.
Yeah.
And you can never, and it just showed me, okay, don't show emotion. Don't tell anyone you're hurting. Don't tell anyone this is bothering you. And so that was my first couple months on the job, on my own, and boom, that's how I kept it.
Yeah.
And it was the exact opposite of what I should have been taught. And no knock to that veteran officer. Maybe that's all he knew.
Yeah.
But
better.
it's just so unhealthy to just try to bottle all that up. And so that's what I did from day one. I bottled up every death, every stress, and you never sleep as a rookie. And that was your recipe. And there's never a break in the police world, because Zion's a pretty busy city. And when I started, it was three of us, 3 officers trying to control all of that.
Oh, that was all
night.
that was there during that event? In general, you guys were just down that many?
You were just down that many people. So it's really like, we were very shorthanded when I started. And so that was your life. You went to work, you were stressed out, you got your 2 days off, you came right back and you never got a break. And the way that I dealt with that from the get-go was drinking. And just drinking and you have this, you're kind of like a mini celebrity because it's a city I grew up in. And I was Matt, your identity, your new identity is, are you Matt the cop? You're the tough guy. You're the one who sees all this stuff that we run from. And I got the bottle, Jim Beam. That was who I vented to.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about as horrible of a recipe. And I do everything extreme. If you haven't seen me, like everything I do in life is extreme. I want to be the top dog, and whether it's drinking, whether it's getting tatted up, whether it's acting silly and doing this craziest, dumbest stuff, I've always done it to the extreme. And sadly, all the evil stuff that I did in my life, that I regret, I did to the extreme. So
had you been a drinker before, just out of curiosity?
Not really. Socially, basically. But when I became a cop, it just got to the point, it was just blackout drunk.
Yeah.
On the weekends. And it eventually destroyed my marriage. My selfishness and my identity as this new cop who, and the sad thing is, and the reality is that it is a lot of temptation when you become an officer. Women just gravitate towards you. Temptation of evil gravitate towards you. Being an egomaniac is what you kind of become when you can be this little celebrity. And I wrecked my first marriage, and it that made it even worse. It was just like one step down, and it just kept going and going and going.
Were you guys married before you became a cop?
Yep. I was married when I became a cop, I had been married for 6 years. And it was about, we ended up getting divorced 3 years in. And it was, and that's all on me. It was 100% my bad behavior. I never did anything. The funny thing is, I never did anything unethical on the job. I was always a square cop, like solid. Like I never violated rights. I wasn't mean to anybody. I was just immoral on my outs with everything that came with being a cop. I remember my therapist saying, like, why can't you live your life with the same principles that you conduct your job? And that was
why I'm here. You need to tell me.
Exactly.
That's actually like a question I think we all should ask ourselves sometimes, because we all struggle and we all make choices that we were like, look back going, well, I could have done that a little differently.
Oh yeah.
Right? I could have withheld what I just said, or, maybe if I would have gone home just a little bit earlier, things like that, you put in there, and you don't look at it that way, but it's true. What if because I am like, so I'm in sales, so I do ride the compliance line because that's my job to do, but I could never go over that line, right? Because the guilt that I would feel, I still feel guilty for taking the Tootsie Roll at the IGA in Decatur, Illinois, because with my grandma, that 2-cent Tootsie Roll. I'm like, oh my God. To this day, I'm like, I can't believe I ever did that.
I'm gonna get Decatur on 3-way here.
Right?
No,
right? Yeah. Shh. That grocery store doesn't exist anymore, so I don't know that it counts.
No, the IGA. Oh my gosh, we had one of those right here, right next to Zion. We had an IGA. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What did that stand for? Like International Growth Association?
I can't remember.
Something like that. Oh
All
my
I
gosh,
know is my mom left
years.
one of us outside one of them at least every couple months. We'd go grocery shopping. She would forget us.
Oh my God.
Wow. That explains a lot, Christy.
Doesn't it? There's my abandonment issues.
We're having a therapy session for you right now.
Yeah, exactly. But that's true though. So it is. It's we don't think about it. Why can't we? So the fact that your therapist threw that out there that way, that's huge. How did you react to that?
I knew it, but I mean it's really scriptural. I loved my sin more than I wanted to do good. It was fun. I mean, let's face it was my only outlet. The only thing that made me feel good was when I acted stupid and womanized outside of the job, because it took my mind away. So I was choosing that which will never satisfy you in life. Basically, I was choosing the quick Band-Aid that was only temporary. But then I'd go home and I stare at the ceiling and just know what a scumbag I actually was. When it's just you and the ceiling and God, it's you know you can't fool with yourself.
You can't. You don't.
And
And it
and
doesn't
they
matter which
eventually
side of that coping mechanism you've used. You
uh-huh.
all are sitting there in the same spot, just a different view for it.
Yep, exactly. And I went to I remember they put me on the pills, a bunch of the antidepressant pills, and I became hooked on those, and I would get different prescriptions, and that was my means to fall asleep and deal with life. And it was pretty. Sometimes I wonder how I even made it with a lot of the reckless living that I did to try to get some sleep, because you never can sleep.
No.
That's one thing about an officer. An officer, firefighters too, we never sleep at all.
Well,
Our
and
sleep
that's
schedule
part
is
of the
so jacked.
problem, because it's your brain starts malfunctioning when you are not getting proper sleep. So it's just this vicious cycle that keeps going and going. And you hit on something that kind of, I felt that when you said, you went out and did these things, drinking and having extramarital affairs and stuff, and then you come home and it almost puts you lower than you were when you first went out to try and to do these things. Like you got a temporary high, and now you're even lower, and each time you go lower and lower, probably because the guilt starts setting in.
Oh, absolutely. Like I still to this day I cry when I think about my kids and what I put them through. I mean, it's it really does get you so low to the point. Eventually, you get to the point where you're disenchanted with life. Like,
Right.
what happened to me? Like, 4 or 5 years into that, like what? I'd rather go back to the $10 an hour I was making, just be a normal guy. And you just like look at it like, what in the world happened? Where did Matt go?
Yeah.
And that was when the suicidal thoughts started to really take effect. And then I used to say that I used to tell people I'm not going to live to see 40, so I'm not worried about it. I say it jokingly because they just took it as I was just being a clown.
My husband,
but I really meant
the
it.
same thing. He used to say,
Really?
yeah. He used to say that he always felt that he was going to die young. So,
It's interesting.
And
yeah,
it's almost like you convince yourself that there's a finish line, and it's so horribly sad. And yeah, that's when I started like making the actual plans.
So, and you're saying about year 5, you started feeling year 5 on the job. You started feeling
well,
that
it was
way.
actually, there was year 07. It was really right after the divorce. So about between years 3 and 5 is when it really took a play. And then it kind of like lingered in there for quite a while. You would try to get temporary fixes. I took up semi-pro football. That helped a little bit. I took up Golden Glove boxing, and that's my nose got destroyed. We were talking about that earlier. And you kind of find reasons to keep living, but none of it ever satisfies you. And it got to the point where I finally got caught. I finally got caught one day when it was a girl that I was staying with, and I had taken my concoction to fall asleep, which was just totally ridiculous concoction to fall asleep. It was antidepressant, Xanax, Ambien, and NyQuil, and I would just take it just to get a few hours. And what I would do is I would always practice how I would end my own life, and I would like put the gun in certain positions and see how I would actually do it, because it was right on the horizon for me. And I fell asleep with the gun on my chest facing my chin, and she happened to come home and found me like that. So I got turned in to my chief for the first time. And they made me go get some therapy, and I love my old chief, and God bless him, but it was really weird how he dealt with it, because I don't think they were ready for it. He made up a fake back injury. We're not going to tell anybody. Just go have a doctor clear you and get back to work. So I went and I found out a lot of reasons why I'd gotten like that, some childhood trauma, and some abuse. And I found out some reasons why, but it really didn't change anything. I just wanted I thanked them, and I thank them to this day, those therapists that tried. But I knew what to say. I'm a cop. I know how to get a therapist to believe me. It's what we do. It's what we see every day. We can articulate things. It's our job. So I got my job back, and I knew the cat was going to get out of the bag. That I wasn't all there, and that I was really not this crazy fun guy that everyone saw, this drunk goofball, that I was really in pain. And I was like, you know, I'm gonna end it for real this time, but I'm just not gonna I'm not gonna get caught. It's gonna be a wrap. So.
And I know, I mean, I do know because I've been in that position myself personally, but I also know because I think Ken, 2 weeks before he passed, I had called him, and I think that's when he was going to do it. I talk about that frequently, but
Mhm.
what I don't know is how when you've come to that conclusion or that decision, what feeling goes on inside? I mean,
It's
the
a
feeling of unfeeling, but that's why it's going to be
mhm.
hard to describe, I think. But
It is a weird. You convince yourself. You convince yourself day by day, and it's not something you wake up and just decide. It's a slow move towards this what you believe is inevitable. You're able to block out and justify. Well, okay, my kids. I'm gonna devastate my kids and family. You weigh that against, but all this pain is gonna be gone.
Yeah.
But maybe if I leave this letter, they'll understand and forgive me one day. Or maybe I can convince God that you know what, I ignored you all these years, but I didn't ask to be put in this position. So you kind of play this mental mind game that there's a finish line, and you just learn to block stuff out. You really do. Your mind is a funny thing. I just learned to not be stressed anymore because there was a finish. Like, oh, you know what? It don't matter because I'm not gonna be here anyways. Why stress?
Yeah.
So it's a spiritual war that just goes on in your head, and the darkness just takes over all rationale, and you're able to still function and still know that that there is an end to this because you're gonna make you got control of that.
Yeah.
that's key.
I think that's where you talk about your brain a lot and the darkness in there. And I think that's where I struggle sometimes with even the work that we're doing and trying to explain to people that when someone, and I have not been there, so this is just somebody speaking from the outside, but how my husband carried it out, this is the only explanation that I can give, that you are so irrational at that point that expecting somebody to reach out and say, hey, I need help. That's a far reach to expect somebody to do because you are not talking to somebody that's rational.
That's the key.
Yeah.
And I wrote about that a lot in my book, how you're not dealing, you're almost like a functioning, what you would think was a mental patient who's not all there, but you're functioning. It was almost like I was out of my mind, but I was still in my mind. It's
Right.
very hard to describe.
Act, right?
Yeah, it is. It really, you become a great actor.
Yeah.
You can tell your kids you love them, even though you're about to devastate them.
Right.
You can tell the world that you're normal. And you actually do. And the funny part is you actually do get in better moods because you know you have control of, and this is about to end.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Now, do you think when you got to that point, was it something that you think you were, I don't know how else to word it, but almost a gift to your family that you would no longer be there? Is that how you were settling it in your head? Or did you know that it was going to change their life forever and they were going to struggle because of it? But the most important thing was you weren't feeling that way anymore.
Yeah, the most important number one thing is the pain and stress to be gone. The other part is, I mean, and everyone could be different. My part was I was going to get revenge on the people that hurt me. And say, look, that was a part of mine. And the other part was just this non-realistic sense that I'm just going to go and the world will be better without me. I mean, that's the thing, that I've done so much damage. This is almost a gift to everybody. I would agree with that.
But you did, obviously you loved your kids and they knew you loved them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They knew it. I had hurt them so much over my crazy antics over the years that it was hard to look at myself in the mirror.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that, your book, from, I wrote it down. Hold on. I had it up. I started taking notes. Would you like to introduce your book?
Yes.
I want to get it right. From crisis,
Way out.
from cop in crisis to cop in Christ, right? Is that the
Yes,
wording?
yes.
Okay.
Yep,
That's what I'm
it's
like.
called.
I didn't
Okay,
want to
that is a
misword
mouthful.
that.
Yeah, it is a mouthful. I promised a friend that I would name it that long name. So
Yes.
I kept my promise.
It's like I just wanted to, I know what words they were. I couldn't remember in that second the order in which they were. So
We'll have to come up with an acronym to make it shorter.
Yeah, there you go.
exactly. But it shouldn't be shorter because it is a long process, right?
Uh-huh.
And you can't shorten a long process to get to, thankfully, a good place. So I know, obviously you're still here today. Thankfully, you received the help that you needed to. And I know you talk about that in your book, correct?
Yep. How it finally, you want me to tell kind of the
Yes.
brief story of how it
Yes,
finally
please.
happened? So I decided that that is it. I'm gonna be very intentional about this. I knew the exact plan I was gonna do. To be frank, I knew exactly how the crime scene was gonna look. I planned it all out. I practiced it. I had it step by step. So I wrote this letter out. I wrote down who I hated, who I loved, my apologies, and even down to what songs I wanted them to play at my funeral and what I wanted to wear in my casket. So I had that plan all ready to go. And I went to work, and I was a really cold winter night in January, and in Illinois, the winters are brutal up here on the lake, especially. And it's like 20 below. It's January, late January 2013. It's 20 below. And I went and parked in the Walmart parking lot. I'm going over this plan, and I'm just crying to myself. Because when you're that manic and you've been down that low for so long, you just cry. When you're by yourself, you just cry. It's automatic. You cry because you have nothing to do but look at your own life and what you've done to it. And so I'm crying to myself, going over this plan, almost like an offensive game plan in football. I'm just going step by step. Okay, I'm going to leave this note. I'm going to call. I'm going to leave myself like this. And I knew who was going to find me. And I'm crying to myself going over this plan. I see this lady walk out of the Walmart in this ridiculous weather. And I remember it distinctly because it was so cold. Her hair was blowing like to the side. It was like horizontal. And I'm like, why are you out here in this parking lot right now in this weather? I almost got mad because she looked at my squad car and she makes a beeline right towards me. And so I reluctantly wiped my tears away and put on a fake face, and I rolled my window down about 3 inches to see what in the world she wanted at this time of night. And I rolled the window down, and I'll never forget this because it was the most bizarre, surreal moment ever. She sticks her hand through the window and just hands me something. And so I take it, and then she says the words that I'll never forget. She just says, "You need this."
Wow.
Whew, I get emotional when I think about it because it was.
I have goosebumps.
Yeah, that.
It was. And then she turned around and walked away, and didn't say another word. And I looked down, and she had handed me a Red Cross. It was like a little handmade thing on a bracelet, and I just knew it was. I didn't even have to think about it. I knew there's a God, and I know this is you talking right to me.
Yep.
And then I screamed out. I screamed out in my car. I said, "I'm going to die. Can you do something?" And I've told the story a million times. I never thought I'd tell the story, but I tell it a million times. I get emotional every time because it was so crazy and surreal. So God actually answered me back in the car. And I didn't tell this story for a long time because I thought people would think I'm crazy. But I heard the Lord say to me that I don't know if it was in my head, it was audible. He just said that he knew everything I've been through. He knew what I've done. He said, "Stop what you're doing and just follow me." And that was when I made a phone call that morning to my sister. I knew she worked at a church. And I said, I have no clue. Do you have a pastor there? Do you have somebody there? that I can talk to. So I reached out and I got actual help. I called the pastor. I went in there the next day, and he told me the most bizarre thing that I'd ever heard. He said that I had no clue who this guy was. He said, I know who you are and I know all about you. And he said, your sister's been crying to me constantly. And we've been praying that a supernatural occurrence would happen in your life. And I said, well, I guess you got your miracle, because that was the most surreal thing that I've ever seen. And I gave my life to the Lord, and I got to the root of everything that was wrong. And he kind of took me under his wing and mentored me for about a year. I just followed him everywhere he went, because I knew I met God. And I just like, who is this? Why did this happen? Who is this that I met in the car? So I wanted to know, and I just chased it. I chased the information. I chased why this world is so broken. I chased why do we choose our evil over doing what's right? And I kind of just it changed everything. Mm-hmm. And now I learned that badge that was killing me and that I was using for evil, I figured out a way to use it for good and to glorify God. And I ended up, my life's mission is to help all the brothers in blue and brothers and sisters in blue or in red, or anyone that will listen that's struggling with this stuff, that we have to cry out for help. We cannot do this by ourselves. We have to, we were created, God created us to walk with him and to walk with each other. And God doesn't usually audibly come and talk to you. He uses people to talk for him. And that's what I figured out. And then I ended up eventually starting that same pastor asked me to start a youth group, and which is what blew up, which is called My Father's Business. And that's how we now spread the word to kids, adults, addicts, other officers, other firefighters. I mean, it's become something so cool. But it all started one night in the parking lot.
Have you ever seen that woman again?
Yes, I actually
did. Wow.
Yes. It was about a year and a half later, I let her know what she actually did. She had no clue. I found her, and I asked her, why in the world did you go out there? And she just said, she kind of shrugged her shoulders. She didn't speak that good of English. She kind of shrugged her shoulders and said, I don't know. God just told me to go out there.
Something.
And it was,
Yeah.
It was crazy. So what ended up happening was these producers from California followed me in my vehicle about a year ago. They came and did a ride on. I like the show Cops, so they rode with me during the week, and then they came to my youth group at night, and they didn't tell me they were going to bring her. So she'd never seen what all started. So they bring her to my youth group that night, and oh my gosh, I basically got to hug her and say, look what you started. And it was, it was a packed night. It was great, and a lot of tears and her name's Marina, and I'm still really good friends to this day with her.
That's fantastic.
Amazing.
So what was the show that they were following you? Was that about your story? Was that?
Yeah, it was about my story, and it's not out yet. They're still working on some parts of it. They wanted to kind of intertwine my police work with my group, so that should be coming out pretty soon.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thankfully, I'm a true believer in people walk into your life, even if it's in passing. They could be your guardian angel. They could be somebody that was just there in that moment. You never know, but thankfully, Marina did that for you.
Yeah.
And God did that.
Yeah.
Without her doing that, you wouldn't be here today. And
not a chance.
Has that helped? How has that helped with your kids? Have your kids understood more now? Do they struggle? Have you guys been able to come together?
Me and my oldest daughter still have some issues we work out. It's kind of on and off. To me, boys are always easier than girls. Girls are a lot more emotional. So,
yes.
Yeah, no.
What? No.
Oh, I'm gonna get smacked here. All these girls in my house hear me say that, they're gonna smack me. But
I'll back you up on that.
Me and my son, like they've lived the same lives. So my son is like, Pops, I forgive you. I love you, and me and him are like best friends. But me and my daughter, we still have a lot of issues that we sort out, and we're on and off. But I think the most thing is my daughter's exactly like me, so we're too much alike. So,
That'll
but
do
I
it.
ended up, yeah, oh yeah, and that's how I ended up having two younger kids. And that's how I got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old too.
Yeah.
And but I say I think the thing I stress when I talk about the story is you don't just really ride off into the sunset. I mean, the same stresses are there, the same thing. I'm still a cop. Now I think I have more stress because with the youth group, you have more kids that you love and you get your heart broken more. And I mean, for example, like I have more stress in my life, and we've lost since 2017. We've had to bury 13 of our kids.
Wow.
And it's like it's heartbreak after heartbreak and stress after stress. Over almost 40 of them have been shot.
Wow.
So I guess my point is that life doesn't get easier, but once you understand how to sustain and maintain and know that you need the help and know that, what, I'm hurting this week. I need somebody to talk to. Can you hold me up? Can you pray for me? You have to keep steady on your walk, because life is never going to get easy.
No.
And but don't be ashamed. Talk about it. End the stigma. Like talk about your pain. That is my main thing. That you have to talk about it. Satan operates in the dark, and if you bring it to the light, it loses its power.
Yes.
So I always tell brothers and sisters that are stressed out, you have to talk about it. We're not that tough. That's what I say. We are not that tough. We want to act like it, but we're not that tough. We are made. We see the worst things that you could possibly see, and there's no way you can bottle this up and not talk to somebody about it. And you go home and cry if you have to. Then go home and cry. It's okay.
Do you think that message has gotten through to your department, or do you think that there's still some hesitation on their end?
No, I
think
think
there wasn't really in the beginning.
Oh no,
Yeah.
not at all. Years ago, I think things have changed a lot since you just talk about it. If one person talks about it, then everyone else feels comfortable talking about it.
Yeah.
And in our profession, it's like, no offense to cops or firefighters, but it really is monkey see, monkey do. Like whatever the veterans doing, they're going to follow right along.
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
So let's make talking about it the thing to do, and I think that we've done a really good job of doing that, especially with groups like what we're doing right now. Just let's talk about this stuff.
Well, and I love the way that you say that with a smile on your face, because you're like, just talk about it, because it really is that easy. Like it doesn't have to be this big thing where you get in a circle and everyone has to hold on to the ball and you pat. Like just talk, just sit down at the table and have a conversation. That's all it needs to be.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And it can be fun. You can still joke around. You can still have your dark humor that gets you through a lot of times, but it can be fun. Just it doesn't have to be a sad conversation. It's a sad topic. Doesn't have to be a sad conversation.
It doesn't have to be this deep thing that you sit for hours and talk. It may end up being that way, but it can just be a casual conversation. So
right.
And that's one thing I did get out of the therapy is they said, well, if you bottle it up, it's gonna come out, but it's gonna come out wrong. So why not just let it out and let it out in the right way?
Absolutely. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a quick break. And then I want to ask you who Tyrell Gully is.
Okay.
I said the last name right. So we'll be right back. We're so excited to be able to start our day with Badge Brew coffee. Hey, Robyn, did you know they take a green coffee bean and roast them to a rich and delicious brew?
I did. And Christy, did you know that Badge Brew is first responder family owned? So whether you're on day shift, night shift, or the shift of raising your family, Badge Brew will always have your coffee ready and waiting.
Let me ask you, what's your badge of honor? Find out by going to badgebrewcoffee.com. All right. And welcome back. So we are here with our guest, Matt Thornton, a Zion policeman out here in snowy Illinois in April.
Could you believe that? Oh,
I know.
I was so mad when I woke up this morning.
We had somebody's car alarm go off at 3. I'm like, is it one of ours? And my boyfriend, Matt, not you, but Matt, looks out the little window. He's like, it's not ours, but it's snowing. I'm like, son of a gun.
Oh my gosh, I was so mad I looked out the window.
Hey,
yeah.
To quote Prince, sometimes it snows in April.
Yeah.
Or May or
Calm
Illinois.
down.
Especially in Illinois. It might be sunny later and we might have leaves falling too. We can have all seasons in one day. So back to your book. You have a foreword in there, right? Your book starts with a quote from Tyrell Gully. Is that how I say his last name?
Yep, Tyree Gully. Yep.
Tyree, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. So would you like to tell us about that?
Yeah. Tyree. Oh, that's another emotional one. It was actually I met him. He was 17. His actual life story was he's born in Chicago, and his parents abandoned him at the hospital. So he laid in there for 2 weeks before anyone claimed him. And foster mom ended up claiming him and took him in, and she died when he was 3. So his only parent he ever knew was Inez, and he ended up moving around. He bounced around brothers, sisters' house and stuff. Ended up he moved to St. Paul, I believe. He went to Ohio. He was just different places. He ended up in Zion. And how I met him was he heard about my organization, and he just different kid than anyone ever talked. I remember he called me, and I'm like, there's no way this kid's 17-year-old, because he talks like he's like late 20s gangster. Like I mean, you could tell he was a street. The way that he presented himself, he was just a street kid. Like I actually went there. It's like, is this a setup? Because that's just how bizarre it was and how he talked. And so I remember meeting him. He was staying on our worst block in a house, in an apartment with no electricity or anything. I believe he was selling dime bags just to learn. He was only 17. And so all he wanted was some help. And he was genuine. Just he came out, and I met him out there, and we just became inseparable. He became what was a combination of my son and my best friend. And so I always call him my adopted son, because we took him in. I think I might have been like a true father figure to him, and that's what he eventually ended up telling me. And he protected my biological son with his own, but like he was so protective and just the most special young man I'd ever met. And I really did take him as my son. And he ended up having to go back to Minnesota he was on probation. When I met him, he was on probation for stabbing somebody, and he had to end up going back to Minnesota to end his probation. When he was 21, he was going to come back, and we were going to find him an apartment. He was just going to stay with me temporarily until we got him a good job, and he's doing really well. And it was right before Robyn. You told me the date of your husband. It was his was April 13th, 2019. So actually last week was the 3-year mark. It's something that I've just accepted. I'll never know why. I will never know why. He never told me he was hurting. He never talked about his pain. I just got a phone call just out of nowhere. He was coming. We were actually writing our book together, and that's why it took my book so long to come out, because everything came to a halt. I got the call that he took his own life, and I just never know why. And he did the foreword. What I did, that was so hard to write. I took all the letters that he wrote me, and I kind of strung them together. So he does the foreword to my book, and it's pretty beautiful when you read it. I weep like I'm a 10-year-old whenever I read it. But it's really is beautiful. We're really one of the most special kids that you'll ever meet. I absolutely love Tyree. So it just goes to show that this fight goes on. This fight, this pain. That's why I'm so familiar with the pain. I could be miserable every day, or I can tell Tyrese's story to try to encourage other people to talk about it and know that I served a purpose in his life, and he served a purpose in my life, and we have to keep going because life still goes on, and our job is to help other people. That's the way I see it.
It absolutely is. And to walk the journey with other people, and everybody's
Uh-huh.
paths are always different,
Yeah.
but along
Mhm.
that path, you cross somebody at some point and for some reason. And it
Yep.
sounds like with Tyree, that's what happened for you and for him.
Greatest kid in history. Only kid to ever break my rims at my youth group from dunking. He actually
Wow.
cost me $400 for dunking.
Oh,
Really explosive athlete, the sweetest kid ever. A kid that I was like weary of, that I thought was going to set me up. He ends up staying at my mama's house when he comes to visit. Like it was a beautiful story.
But that his
Yeah.
there's something. The only thing I pops into my mind right now is what a lucky guy you are. Like you've come across some really amazing souls. It sounds like
Yeah.
and beautiful souls. And this particular one had such a struggle in this life, and you were
Mm-hmm.
able to show him love that he probably didn't remember from his foster mother, but that's all he needed. And he's moved on to another journey,
Yep.
and
And,
how
and
lucky are you to have been part of that?
that's what I have it just, you got to look at the blessing in it all.
Yeah.
The heartbreak is always going to be there, but look at the purpose you actually served
Yep.
in his life. And I am lucky because I do. My group is a lot of stories like Tyree is
Mhm.
in my group, and we have. I mean, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of stories exactly like his that we get to bless their lives every week. And but it's basically 7 days a week now with my father's business.
Mhm.
My team, we just take care of so many kids. So those are he's probably the top soldier I've ever had, but there's many just like him.
Mhm.
well, and I believe he's still walking with you guys
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
and talking to the kids too,
mhm.
no doubt.
he was yeah, nobody messed around when Tyree was there. Like he was like he commanded so much respect, and my sister was always safe because my sister runs a lot of times when I have to work,
Mhm.
and she was always safe when Tyree was there. No, none of these hooligans were gonna do anything when Tyree was there. So yeah,
That's good.
Yeah, especially if he's
yeah, yeah.
breaking rims. That's not easy.
Yeah, oh yeah, he was. Yeah. Oh yeah, I miss him, but yeah, he's
Ah,
still here with us.
he is. He is.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. So, in your book, you discuss obviously Tyree. You discuss
Mhm.
how you got to where you are. Is there
Uh huh.
anything that if anybody looks at the book or when they go to pick up the book, is there anything that truly hits home? Which I guess it's going to be different, really, for Robyn, for me, for somebody else. But is there anything that you would really want them to hit home when reading the book?
The main thing, I wrap up the book at the end, and this could go. I kind of, the book is written kind of for the police world, but it can go in any world. It's really written for anybody.
Mhm.
But they always call um, officers sheepdogs. That thing that we protect from the wolves. And I got the phrase from a friend of mine years ago that I named the chapter "Every Sheepdog Needs a Shepherd." Um, so that's basically my favorite chapter in the book. It just sums everything up. That if you're hurting, number one, your true Father in heaven will walk with you, and then He sends people that are going to walk with you as well. And I mean, look at us. Look how we met. I
Mhm.
mean,
Right.
we hold each other up. I mean,
Right.
you guys we're helping each other as we speak,
Yep.
and that's the main point of everything. Is we all do this. We're meant to be on earth to do good deeds and to walk with other people and love other people. So if you're hurting, there's resources out there for you. Number one is your Father in heaven. Number two is people around you, and pay attention to that. And just know that you can't do this alone. You can't. Nobody can. Period. So
And I feel like when you are in that moment, you really do not, you feel so alone and so isolated that
mhm.
you cannot mentally see that people are truly there for you
Uh-huh.
and want the best for you.
Yeah, it's you learn to deflect it.
Yeah.
You really do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
It's
guess
always
if you
somebody else, right? It's not you, it's
uh-huh.
somebody else because then you don't have to worry about it.
Uh-huh. Well, the deflection for me came a lot because you don't want to appear weak, and that was the stigma. You have to maintain this facade, and that's phony. So that's why the end the stigma or break the stigma, whatever you want to call it, the phrase is so important to me. Like if we make it a practice, just talk about this stuff, and then nobody shies away from it.
And what advice would you give as far as the people around an officer or first responder or anybody that's having a mental health crisis? Like what advice do you give to them as far as how to approach the person? Because we know that person is in crisis, they're not rational. What is the best approach so we don't keep pushing the person away? Or is there not a best approach? It just
Well, I think a top approach, number one, is prayer. I will always say that. But on a practical level, if they're pushing you away or they're maintaining, most human beings by nature, there is somebody that they will listen to.
Yeah.
Find that person who it is. If it's not you, okay, swallow your pride and accept, okay, they're not going to listen to me. There's somebody that will. For me, my dad or my mother couldn't tell me a thing on earth. But my boxing coach is the first person that I've kind of broke down to. He's the first man that ever said, something's wrong with you. What's going on? But there's always somebody out there that they will listen to, whether maybe it could be a sergeant, maybe it could be an aunt or uncle, but they will listen to somebody. Find that person. If it's not you, find them and get with them and get it taken care of. Be very intentional about it. Because we've seen when you're nonchalant, the disaster ends. We've all lived it. So,
yeah, and we've all lived it. Actually, even for you, Matt, on this side of suicide, if we could have seen that in the beginning and been able to help or push more, we can't blame ourselves by any means, but you don't know what you don't know. And this is our gift to people, that you can still be happy, live a beautiful life, have fun, but know that it's okay. To talk. And often talking is just that. That's all you need, is just that. Often, if you're starting that process younger, but when that's building up, obviously we see that's a completely different story, but you're not alone.
Yep, exactly.
And you've been able to give that gift to everybody, and we're so grateful for that. And I've learned so much today in that alone. I thought I knew when we talked that first day, but I had no idea so many things. So surprising, but yet amazing. And not surprising in a bad way by any means. I'm like, surprising. No, it's a gift, because it just shows that you can come out of something and better and be better.
And just by talking, like right now, I know that I have two sisters right here who know my pain, who've been there. There's always somebody out there who can understand it and understand and get what you've been through.
Yes, absolutely. Before we wrap up, Robyn, is there anything else that you would like to ask or discuss?
No, I'm just grateful, like you just said, that I'm grateful to have met you and hear your story. And each one of these conversations, but especially with you, there's something about you that kind of reminds me of, like I said, where I grew up and some of friends that I've had, some friends that my husband had and stuff. So I'm glad that we met, and
that's
grateful
awesome.
that you're sharing your story and that you're doing good with it, because I think Christy and I talk about this a lot, and other people at First Help, why, having been through what we've been through, why do we want to do this? But it's a calling. There's something within us that I need to help other people. I need to share the story. Whether or not Eric wanted me to, I have no idea, but he doesn't get a choice now. So I'm doing it. Not to be funny about it, but but I'm left with this burden, and I'm going to do what I can.
He's here. He's with us. And you're doing the exact right thing.
Yeah.
Just know it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So as we talk about, we always ask our guests to, one, reintroduce themselves, and then to let us know something that you do every week that helps you to be better by Friday that we could utilize in our lives.
Let's see. On my Monday, cops have different Mondays than normal people. On my Monday, on a spiritual level, I make sure that I know that I connect with God every day. That's so your human habit. What's most important to you in your life is what you think about before you go to bed and what you think about when you wake up. That's usually the most important thing to your life. So I make sure to myself what that is. If it's the wrong thing, then okay, let's kind of push that to the side and let's get the right things on my mind. So that's number one, is to have the correct thing on your mind before you go to bed and when you wake up. And then I lay out my day, my plan for the week. I know that this day I'm going to the gym, and find out something that's an outlet for you. If whether it's going to the gym, whether it's doing something physically or mentally, I make sure I know what I'm going to do every single day, and that's how I get to my Friday, and then it all resets, and you get a couple days rest, and then it all resets, and you maintain the same thing. But it's all about mind and body, because they work hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm.
And is your book out currently?
It is. The pre-sales are out, but it comes out May 5th.
May 5th? Okay.
Which is my daughter's birthday, Cinco de Momo.
I meant to ask that before we did our mindset. So, so May 5th.
May 5th.
And so I'll be purchasing it. I'm sure that
yeah.
Robyn will as well. And the fact that all the funds go back to my father, my business, is fantastic.
Yep.
So thank you.
Yeah.
And
I
thank
don't
you.
want to make no money off this.
No. Yeah, but thank you for also making such a difference in your community and everyone else's communities by being open and honest and sharing how you've been able to overcome.
I'm honored, and you guys as well. You guys are my heroes. Like, we stick. Like, anything you need, let me know. I'll be there in a split second.
We appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.